Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the latest in our QuickBooks related workshops. And today we are going to be discussing trucking always being a relevant topic and in much demand. And so once again, we are delighted to have Ms. Olga Della Rosa and Ms. Michelle Ringgold from Ringgold Financial Management Services to conduct this workshop today. And I believe at this time I'll turn things over to Olga. Good morning and thank you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop. Quick reminder, if you haven't done so, please put your name, company name, and your city in the chat, and any other contact information. Today's workshop is being presented by Michelle Ringgold. She is President and CEO of Ringgold Financial. She is a supportive service consultant for IDOT for Management Services, District 1 through 3. Housekeeping, please make sure you mute yourself and keep your video off. Enter all questions in the Q&A, not in the chat. We will be answering questions throughout the presentation. Just a quick reminder, this presentation is interactive. If you did not receive the PowerPoint before, you will receive it after, but we will be working in the QuickBooks in the QuickBooks Premier system. It's just better, for us to train you that way, to do this workshop that way. And again, the meeting will be recorded, so you will have access to the presentation, recording, and those slides. And as I mentioned, it will be recorded and it will be provided in a follow-up email along with additional helpful resources. There may be a short survey following the presentation. There's a QR code you can access at the end of the presentation. And so please let us know how to improve and any ideas for future workshops. So today's agenda we just went over the introductions and housekeeping. We're going to go over IDOT's goals, supportive services and resources, and then we're going to jump into our presentation. We'll do a couple of slides on key terms and definitions, and then we're going to go ahead and start in the system with setting up a company, going over our preferences, home screen, discuss the chart of accounts, items and services, vendors, customers, invoices, tracking drivers, and tracking vehicle mileage. We'll end with a Q&A and some closing remarks and the evaluation. IDOT's goal is to provide assistance to DBE firms and individuals interested in doing business with the department in ways that ensure equity, access, and transparency. IDOT, in accordance with federal guidelines, strives to facilitate and implement programs that can help current and future business partners open the door to doing business with IDOT. The department works towards this goal in a variety of ways, most notably through the tools available at our resource centers, the supportive services program that is executed through our partnerships with consultants who provide management and technical supportive services assistance, the corresponding supportive services programs that fall under the umbrella supportive services program. This support is provided at no charge to IDOT's DBE firms, to firms seeking IDOT DBE certification, to Illinois UCP DBE certified firms who have an IDOT contract, and to prime contractors doing business with IDOT. Office of Business and Workforce Diversity, led by Brian Hendricks. He is the Policy and Supportive Service Unit Manager. His email is there. We're going to go over the Disadvantaged Business Enterprises Supportive Services. You can learn and grow with supportive services. While opportunities may increase for certified DBEs, it is not guaranteed. Free programs and resources support firms' goals at all phases of growth. You can develop technical and management skills, navigate operational expenses, connect with established firms, discover best practices for successful work with IDOT. You can visit idot.illinois.gov to find your nearest resource center. Resource centers. Each of IDOT's 9 districts offer essential equipment and resources to conduct business with the agency that include computer access, internet access, scanner, copier, printer, staff assistance, including support for DBE applicants. These resource centers are free of charge to all firms seeking to do business with IDOT. You can scan the QR code or visit idot.illinois.gov for a list of locations in your district. Contract compliance officers are accountable for EEO and labor compliance on state and federally funded programs. They ensure contractor compliance with state, federal laws and regulations governing the EEO and labor compliance and DBE programs. Visit idot.illinois.gov and search for Contract Compliance Officer to find a local officer in your district. Technical and management assistance. Ongoing assistance helps DBEs maintain a competitive edge. This assistance is complementary to IDOT's DBE firms or to firms certified in the Illinois UCP that are bidding on IDOT contracts. Technical services include estimating and bidding assistance, equipment and resources, project site inspection, pre-qualification, and for management, bookkeeping systems and credit restoration, bonding and insurance, business and strategic plans, and marketing. Supportive services consultants so each district has consultants for certification. District 1 through 3, Joe Joyner, Ralph G. Moore and Associates. District 4 through 6, Melissa Hamilton, Synergetic Solutions. Mark Vaughn for District 7 through 9, FB Consulting. Management Services in District 1 through 3, Michelle Ringgold and myself for Ringgold Financial. District 4 through 6, Melissa Hamilton, Synergetic Solutions. Mark Vaughn, FB Consulting. District 7 through 9, and for Technical Services, District 1 through 9, Ron Brown from Gonzalez Companies. Workshop and events. The Borough of Small Business Enterprises brings innovative events to the public with 3 goals in mind: to share skills to become more competitive on IDOT projects, help individuals and businesses work with IDOT and form strategic partnerships, encourage sharing of best practices, policy and procedure changes. Each district hosts events year-round to help firms do their best work with IDOT. Today's challenge, tomorrow's reward, TCTR. It's IDOT's annual conference that provides for networking, skill building, and knowledge sharing among our vendor network. All firms doing business with the department, including primes and subcontractors, consultants, and suppliers, and our various partners are welcome. Our next TCTR will be in 2025. You can call 217-782-5490 with any questions. Available programs. IDOT offers 50% reimbursement to qualifying firms in select categories while funds are available. These can include association or organization membership costs, training or certification class, website capability statement or logo, and much more. You can contact the Borough of Small Business Enterprises to discuss criteria for these limited time funds. Business Development Program. Qualifying DBEs can receive firm-specific guidance to prepare their growth in the transportation industry, so they can receive full business evaluation and analysis, tailored training that may be eligible for reimbursement, personalized recommendations to maintain competitiveness. How do you apply? Enrollment opens once per year. 15 firms are accepted annually. Applications for 2024 will open soon, and you can visit idot.illinois.gov for details. Mobilization payments to account for preparatory work and operations necessary for the movement of subcontractor personnel, equipment, supplies, and incidentals to the project site, and for all other work or operations that must be performed or costs incurred when beginning work, the contractor shall make a mobilization payment to each subcontractor. The mobilization payment must be made at least 7 days prior to the subcontractor starting work. The mobilization payment to the subcontractor is an advance payment of the reported amount of the subcontract and is not a payment in addition to the amount of the subcontract. Therefore, the amount of the advance payment will be deducted from future progress payments. The amount paid is a percentage of the value of the subcontractor shown in the table below. HCCT pre-program, the Highway Construction Careers Training Program, boosts participation of diverse individuals in the industry on IDOT's highway construction projects. Illinois Community College partners offer training in industry, trade, and life skills, such as OSHA 10 certification, welding, forklift operation, first aid, CPR, AED, math for the trades, introduction to electrical, plumbing, and sheet metal, carpentry, introduction to tools, and much more. Employment is not guaranteed. However, participants do receive job placement assistance. 4 reasons why HCCTP graduates make ideal hires. They are well trained to fulfill entry-level roles, professional talent with diverse perspectives, eligible to work for IDOT project sites, and reimbursement via IDOT Training Special Provisions, TPG. Who can apply for this program? Eligibility is open to women, minority groups, and other persons from historically underutilized populations. Must be at least 18 years old. You must have a high school diploma or GED, valid driver's license, and ability to pass a drug screening. So a little bit about Ringgold. Ringgold is led by our managing partner and president, Michelle Ringgold. We are a licensed CPA and management advisory firm. We are established since 2005 and are certified as a DBE firm. We combine three major disciplines: auditing and accounting, regulatory compliance, risk management, and management advisory to offer turnkey solutions that maximize cost savings and efficiencies. We can deliver under one umbrella the highest quality to our clients by using available resources to provide timely, effective solutions to reinforce these services. We offer a variety of training options on a customized basis. Ringgold has a proven track record of providing effective management supportive services and has helped secure millions of banking and bonding lines of credits to DBE firms, as well as supporting DBE firms in providing accounting and administrative support that helps sustain and grow their businesses. Our staff includes a talented group of licensed and certified public accountants, certified project managers, and business professionals. We provide DBE management supportive services in districts 1 through 3, and some of the supportive services that we do provide include QuickBooks and other accounting system support, business plan preparation, cash flow analysis, bonding and financing assistance, credit restoration, and much more. You can contact our office for any more questions. Please remember to enter your questions in the Q&A box and keep yourself muted and video off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle Ringgold, who will go ahead and start today's presentation.
Thank you, Olga, and thank you, Brian. Thanks everyone on the line here for participating in our workshop today. Again, I'm Michelle Ringgold, the managing partner and president of Ringgold, as well as the IDOT supportive management service consulting firm with IDOT for districts 1 through 3. Today we'll be going over QuickBooks, learning how to set up the company, but we're going to really focus on those specifics related to trucking. As Olga indicated, we find that it's more effective on these type of webinars to really interact with the actual software so you can see the functions being performed, opposed to just taking you through a presentation. So the presentation will be available. This presentation is recorded for future reference, but we will be actually working in the QuickBooks software. Next slide. At the end of this webinar, it's our hopes that you will have the opportunity to gain a better understanding of, first of all, how to even set up a company in QuickBooks, and then how to configure those specific programs that's related directly to trucking to make sure that you understand those different components as well. Next slide. What we like to do before we go into setting up a company in QuickBooks and going through all the various reports is it's important that we go over the terminology, the key terms that we'll be using so that, you understand, what they are. So we've listed some of the most common reports used within QuickBooks, as well as some other terminology and definitions. So as we're walking and navigating through the software, you will at least have been familiar with the terms. So the balance sheet, that's a statement of assets and liabilities and capital of your business. And it really shows and reflects all of your assets, all of your liabilities. And when you subtract all your assets from your liabilities, you get the capital section or equity section, which is considered your book value. And it's a snapshot of the entire life of your company. You can look at the balance sheet and kind of see from inception, the value of your organization. The income statement primarily focuses on the company's revenues or sales, as well as expenses during a particular period. In QuickBooks, the income statement is referred to as a profit and loss. So the profit and loss statement is how it's defined or named in QuickBooks. And that typically statement only goes for a 12-month period. Most of us are on a calendar year, so from January to the end of the year, December 31st is typically, our 12-month period. But there are some organizations that choose to be on a fiscal period where they may go from July 1st to June 30th. Accrued method of accounting, which is generally accepted accounting practices, is considered best practices when we're talking about financial statements. And it's an accounting method that reports money from completing, when you complete the work. So what that means is that I've done the services or provided the services to my customer, and I'm going to bill that. I'm going to put that into my financial statements at the time that I've done the work or delivered the product, as opposed to the next definition, which is cash method, which I'm going to record the money at the time that I receive it instead of at the time that I accrue it. And then the flip side of that is the expense side of things. On the accrual method, I'm going to be recording that into my accounting system at the time that the work has been performed on my behalf or I've received the product, not when I paid it, but when I received the invoice, then I would put it in the system. Whereas on the cash method, I would only record that into my system at the time that I'm paying it. I want to just point out that the accrual method is best practices, but we're talking about book practice, not tax. Tax, certain organizations do qualify to be on a cash basis for tax purposes, but you can definitely be on an accrual method for book purposes and a cash method when it comes to taxes. Your chart of accounts, it's really an index of the financial accounts in the general ledger system, and it really just kind of organizes all of your transactions so that you can have accurate reports. So it's real important that you structure your chart of accounts to meet your business objectives and to ensure that the transactions that you're putting in are being reflected properly on the financial statements, whether that's a cash transaction and you're updating your cash or a cost of goods or sales, it's updating the income statement. And we'll be going over setting up a chart of accounts and what a chart of accounts look like for a trucking firm. Assets are tangible or intangible assets. Tangible assets are things like your cash, your accounts receivable, whereas intangible would be a patent or goodwill. So think of tangible things that I can physically touch and will liquidate, whereas a goodwill or patent is, considered intangible. Fixed assets, which are purchased for long-term use and are not likely to be converted quickly into cash, such as land, building, and equipment. These are things like I buy a piece of equipment that costs $7,000. I bought it for January 1 of 2024. I wouldn't expense the whole $7,000 right away. I would put the $7,000 piece of equipment on my financial statement as a fixed asset. And then after the first year of use, if I determined that 7 years is the use for the fixed asset, I would only expense $1,000 of it. And then each year I would do $1,000 over a 7-year period, opposed to hitting my cost with the whole $7,000 at the time of purchase. The current asset, these are basically assets that will mature within 1 year or can mature within 1 year, such as your checking accounts, your accounts receivable, all are items that would be classified under current assets, whereas another asset could be some type of receivable that you will not be expecting to receive for 2 years, as an example. So therefore, it would be listed as an other asset and not current, because it would not be maturing, or you would not be able to convert it to cash for 2 years. Therefore, it would be listed as an other asset. Depreciation, I kind of gave this explanation. This is how you write down a piece of large fixed asset. And the case I gave was the $7,000 piece of equipment. As I write it down, that expense is called depreciation on my profit and loss or income statement, and that's how you actually move the $1,000 from your fixed asset, which is on the balance sheet, to expensing it on your profit and loss. Inventory is a complete list of items, goods that are in stock that you plan on converting or selling is a good example of inventory. Next slide. Accounts receivable, or the acronym AR, those are the customers and clients that, owe your company business or owe your company, money for services or products that's been rendered. Accounts payable, acronym AP, is money that you would owe to vendors. Maybe you have a material supplier and you have a credit account with them, and their invoices would be captured in accounts payable aging. Liabilities is money that you owe others, debtors, trade accounts, same as the asset when it comes to classifying short-term versus long-term liabilities, same thing. If the liability is due within a 12-month period, then it really should be reflected in the current liability section. And if it's long-term, which means that, you have more than a year to pay it off, that portion would be reflected in the long-term. Your equity is the total value of the business after you've subtracted what was owed. I gave the example, of total assets minus liabilities is your total equity. So if you had $1 million in assets, total assets, and $500,000 in total liability, your book value or your equity would be $500,000. Owner's equity, additional paid-in capital, and things like that is reflected on the balance sheet, and that's just really money that the owner has put into the business. It's a component of equity, but typically owner's equity can be classified as additional paid-in capital, or it can also be, depending on your organizational structure, if you're an S Corp or an LLC, it can be draws that you've taken out that will actually reduce the overall equity. Income, revenue, that's money that you've earned from sales, and you'll see in some places it's referred to as revenue, in some places it's referred to as income in QuickBooks, but they pretty much mean the same thing, and that's money that you've earned for services or products from your client or customer. Cost of goods sold also can be used as COGS or cost of sales for professional service companies. But this is the cost that's directly related to producing the sale. Typically, cost of goods is what we call variable cost, so it typically fluctuates with your sales. So if your sales are higher, then that may warrant you to use more direct labor, versus if your sales were lower, you would have less labor. As it relates to your expenses and your G&A, we typically classify that as fixed costs, because that cost doesn't necessarily fluctuate with the sales from your customer. I mean, you're always going to have utility bills. If you have an office space, you're always going to have rent, an accountant or an attorney. Those are all things that are really considered fixed costs, or those costs that are not directly related to the product or services that you're rendering to your customers. Customers and clients are the folks that buy your goods and services. And then when we talk about vendors in the software, those are individuals that, provide products or services to your organization. And then employees should be classified, if they're W-2s, as employees. I'll take a pause to see if there's any questions about the definitions, and if not, let's move to the next slide.
No questions.
Okay, so from here, as Olga mentioned, we're not going to, the PowerPoint is here for reference. We're going to actually take you through the software of actually setting up a company for a trucking firm and making sure we're hitting the components that are specific to a trucking firm. I mean, a lot of the setup is going to be the same regardless of the organization, but then we want to point out those things that are specific to trucking. So when you get a QuickBooks desktop version, you have the ability, once it's loaded, to create a new company. So we're going to click Create a New Company. And then from here, what it's going to do is, because we're a pro advisor CPA firm, a lot of times we are engaged and we can do this and be paid by IDOT to set up your system for you. So sometimes we are checking that we're setting up the system for someone else. But for the sake of this class, if you are setting up your own system, you would be selecting, you're setting up this system for yourself. There's a couple of different ways that you can set up a company. We're going to be going over the detail to go through all the components, but you could use an existing file that is similar to you to help to copy that so you can get all the preferences in and you don't have to reconfigure. And then if you are doing a setup from a different software like a Quicken or any other software that is compatible, you can actually bring in the data from a different software. If you was using Quicken and now you want to, upgrade to a QuickBooks software, you can use that Quicken software to help you set up your company. But we're going to go with a detail start. So we're going to click on detail start. And then basically you're going to see Olga populating your company's name. You have to put a company's name in. A lot of times the company and the legal name is the same, but there's some times where you may have an extremely long legal name and you may shorten your company name, and keep in mind that the company name is what's going to print on invoices and things like that, but the legal name is what's going to print on tax documents. Making sure that you have the right tax ID number is important, because not only can you file payroll reports if you're using payroll, but if you're e-filing forms and things like that with a government official, you want to make sure that number is correct, or that tax ID number is reflected correctly so that you don't get any kickbacks. Having your email address and your website is helpful, because that will, print out on various documents like your invoicing and things like that. We go to next. So here is where, QuickBooks has tried to do the best job that they can to set up in, different industries. Therefore, it will help configure your system and help give functions that are, most commonly used in your business. So it's real important that you go through the list and you choose the best description here, because it'll save you time, and it'll also bring in recommendations. The software will bring in recommendations, what is most used in your industry, in efforts to help. So we're going to just scroll down this list and choose something that's best for trucking. And you see we're going to choose transportation, trucking, or delivery, so that lets QuickBooks know that we're setting this up specifically for a trucking industry. And then here, how your company is organized. QuickBooks has the ability to interface with various tax softwares, or just simply print out what should be inputted into your tax return, which could be very helpful to your tax preparer. So if you're a sole individual, typically that gets reported on your 1040 on the Schedule C. A partnership or an LLP, that gets reported on your 1065. An LLC, if it's a single sole, really gets reported on the 1040 Schedule C. But if you have multiple owners of your LLC, then that would get reported on the 1065. A corporation would be 1120, S Corp, 1120S, and so forth. So by checking the right structure here, you can actually streamline and help automate your tax preparation at year end. So we can just click on share S Corp or C Corp. It doesn't matter, over whichever one. Okay. I'm going to say next. I talked about the fiscal year. If you want to just go back for me, and most of us are on a 12-month period. But this is how the system knows how to roll, because every year what happens on your profit and loss, your profit and loss activity, which is, if you remember, profit and loss would have the income or sales from your customer, your cost of goods, and your G&A. That zeroes out at the beginning of the year, and it feeds into your balance sheet. So you have to tell the system if I'm a January through December client, or if I'm, my physical year starts in July. Like I said, most of us start in January, so this is what we will select here, and we will choose next. It is recommended that you have a password, especially if you have multiple users. An admin password gives you the ability to configure your system and change things and set up users, whereas you may want to set up other users as non-admin passwords so that they are able to, maybe you just only want them to be able to process your invoicing or process your AP, and you don't want them to have access to your financial statements information or your banking information and so forth. So it is recommended that you set up a admin password, and you just do it here. Okay, then from there, you've told QuickBooks that, hey, I'm a trucking company. I've answered just some basic information on my company. Now I'm ready to save my data file, whether that's to a server, whether that's to your desktop. We're just going to save it to the desktop here. And now QuickBooks is now grabbing all of that information and forming your company based on the criteria of you being a trucking company. Okay. So now it's saying that, the system, the basic information, the type of industry is already set up. Now it's going to further customize your system for specifically related to your business, because even though you may be a trucking company, some trucking companies do things a little different. Some trucking companies may even have other services and things like that. So you just want to go through the interview questions to help customize your software a little bit better for your company needs. So you would hit next here. And for here, we're going to just choose services only, just for the simple, just to make this a little easier. So we're not going through functions that's related to products. We did have a supplier seminar, and that is recorded if you're interested in, tracking products. But we want to focus on service and trucking right now. So we're just going to choose service only, so we don't get, all these other options that is really not related to your business. I'm going to say next. We're not going to do sales taxes. Typically, that's not a part of a trucking industry. This is, some folks still like to do estimates. I mean, it's not recommended for a trucking company, and to keep this simple, we're gonna leave it the way that it's reflected here. We do go into job costing and project costing in great detail when it comes to construction industry and professional services. And if you are a trucking firm that want to implement estimates and things like that, you can certainly reach out to our office, and we can, help you work through that. But typically, trucking companies do not use this particular module as it's recommended here by QuickBooks. Next. Statements is always what, recommended, whether you use it or not. I always recommend turning this feature on because at the end of the day, I think it's a tool that helps you enhance your collection efforts, and to be able to send out monthly statements to your customers to reflect monies owed to your organization is a good practice. Next one. This is talking about invoicing. If you use an invoice when you do not receive a full payment, the ability, as some examples are, consultants send invoices to receive payments when a project is complete. This is not necessarily, or if you're doing, let's just say, percentage of completion or down payments. I mean, typically you're not doing progress billing, as a trucking firm. And if you are, you can definitely turn this on. It doesn't hurt. But we're going to leave this no because we're just not really doing progress billing. I mean, you provide a load or a delivery on the trucking side, and typically you get the invoice out right away. You're not billing the customer on a percentage of completion basis. Next slide. Definitely, you want to, best practices, as we talked about, is managing not only who owes you money, but folks that you owe, so that you can get an accurate accounts payable aging at any time. So in order to do that, this feature has to be turned on. You know, there's some small businesses that they operate their financials and transactions on a all cash basis, whether they're small and that's just they don't want to track AR, or it could be the nature of the business. They can be an all cash basis business like a retail store that doesn't necessarily you know, track AR or AP, but it is recommended on your for a trucking firm that you do track your accounts payable and that you manage the bill so you understand who owes you what. Next slide. Tracking time in QuickBooks is recommended. The issue with this, though, is that if you don't have the QuickBooks module turned on, then it may, if you're using like an outsourced payroll company, like an ADP or Paychex, they do ADP and Paychex, and some of the other payroll companies do have interface where you can import the information, or some people will keep it, turn it on, and still kind of put the information in from payroll. But, you know, it also helps you, though, analyze your services and understand the labor component to deliver, you know, the services to your customer. So it is recommended, and we are going to turn it on. Do you have employees? So it's defaulting to no, because when we turn on yes to this, as you can see in the little note, you have to sign up for a subscription. So next week, I know next week, Tuesday, we're going to be going over payroll, but we won't be turning on a payroll subscription and running through payroll for this particular webinar. So we're going to answer no here. Just go next. And then now it's going to take us through the chart of accounts. If you remember the definition, this is where, you know, you organize your transactions so that they appear on the various financial statements correctly. So we will be now taking a look at the chart of accounts and selecting those standard chart of accounts to the trucking industry. So we want to hit next. Again, we talked about the fiscal year beginning 1/1 of 2024. So we want to, you know, check the beginning date. That's going to be applicable to most of us on the phone. Next. Then what it does is it brings up these common accounts that, you know, may or may not be applicable to your business. You can scroll down and see others. The ones that are checked are the ones that are mostly used, and I can just go with this because I can always add a chart of accounts once I get through the setup process, and we'll show you how to do that. But, you know, if I saw something in here like up at the top, Olga, when I saw the cost of goods, you know, I always like to choose subcontracted services because a lot of small businesses will have to use subcontractors to help them. So, you know, you just would go through this and talk to your accountant and make sure that it's in alignment with your objectives. Next. And then basically from there, the company is now set up, and it's going to just kind of give you a couple different options here, just saying that, you know, some notes on, you know, tracking and doing analytics. It's just some information here. Can you hit continue? Then from here, it's going to actually bill the company. We're not going to wait for that. That takes a few minutes. We're going to now go to a company that we've already set up for this presentation. so that we can start going through important criteria that once you get to this point that you need to be aware of. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the File tab, which is at the top. And there's just a few things I want to talk about. The first one is backing up your company. So we got a couple different backups. You can create a local backup where you back it up to, your desktop, or you back it up to an external drive. You also have the ability to activate, QuickBooks has an online backup where you can actually back up your data through online services. We recommend backing up, some folks back up every day, some folks back up weekly, monthly, quarterly. It just depends on your needs, and you can discuss that, with your IT company. But we do recommend backing up just in case there is a disaster or a fire or something like that. You don't lose everything. You have the ability to restore the data and continue with your business. The next item on the file that I'd like to point out is the utility function, because we get a lot of folks that don't utilize this, but it is recommended where Olga's hovering over, that you verify data and rebuild data, whether that's monthly, quarterly. You need to do it at least annually. Sometimes QuickBooks does have glitches in the system, or if you were in the middle of processing something and you lost power and you were in the middle of updating payroll or posting a transaction, and the transaction, because you lost power, didn't flow through all the way and it didn't update correctly. And sometimes you may not even know that there's a glitch in the system until it progresses and gets worse. So it's recommended that you run this. We're not going to run it because it does take a little time, but you would click on here and simply say yes to verify the data. And then what it'll do is it'll run through all of the software programs and things like that. And then it may come out with a report that says that you have some type of glitch in the system. And then all you do is go to the next tab, which is rebuild the data. And then you would rebuild it, and then it would fix your problem. This is definitely recommended to do annually, because folks that don't do this, and then if you have a glitch and it progressively gets worse, then now you can wind up having a corrupt data file or program file. So those are just some important tools that I would like to point out, like if you're running QuickBooks that, you should practice. And jump out of there. And then we're going to go into lists real quick. We're going to talk about a couple different lists. So the first thing that's under lists is the chart of accounts. So we're going to click on the chart of accounts. So based on what we told the software that we're a trucking firm, there's going to be certain Pacific related chart of accounts here or accounts that are related specifically to construction, gross trucking income, fuel for hired vehicles, truck maintenance costs. So the system, because we've selected trucking, and when we went through that customization of the chart of accounts, it brought some things in that, is very standard. It is standard for a trucking firm to own tractors or trailers. It's very common for them to own trucks and equipment. So it brought those transactions in. But, it doesn't bring everything in. So the first thing we would do is just show you how to set up an account. So you always want to bring in your bank account. So if you click on accounts there, and then you see new account, and then we're going to choose bank. And then notice it gives you a definition when you chose bank. And, if you have multiple accounts, I always like to list the name of the bank, so we could just put Chase Bank. If you have multiple accounts, you can put Chase Bank, and then you can put a dash and put the last 4 digits, so make sure that the data entry clerk knows what account they're entering. You can put additional descriptions here if you wanted to, just as reference if you need it. If you wanted to put your bank account number and your routing number in here, you can. The system does have the ability, just so you know, to interface with your bank and actually update and bring transactions in from your bank. And then you will just need to verify that the transactions are brought in correctly and coded, correctly. Because a lot of times you have to train the system. And what we found when people turn on the import or the interaction with their banking account is that a lot of times the import is taking it to the wrong categories. So it's real important that if you do turn the feature on and link it to your bank, that you go through the system logistically to make sure that expenses are hitting correctly and things like that. And if you're interested in turning on the link, we can certainly help you configure and help you with the logistics to try to minimize things from being posted incorrectly. Notice the tax line mapping. So because, based on the fact that we chose an S Corp, it's basically saying for this line item, this is where the tax line should go. But basically, every line related to an 1120 F, because that is the one we chose, would be here. And you can actually take each account that you set up and make sure that it's mapped properly. And you can actually print out this report of transactions that you're in and give it to your accountant, or as I indicated, you can actually import the data to specific tax softwares that's compatible to QuickBooks. That's really it there. So you can hit save and close. And see here, it asks you right away, do you want to set up that link where you can bring in your transactions to help you save time? And if you say yes, then, you would have to go through some setups. We're not going to be trying to link to a bank account here, but if you want to do a bank feed setup, we can help you. So you'll see that the account is set up. We can delete accounts, either highlighting an account and just right-clicking and just hit delete account. You can hit delete. Okay, so the fact that she's got that notice that says, are you sure you want to delete that account? That's fine. The software will not allow you to delete an account that has activity. So I see the balance of $3,000 on the accounts payable. So highlight the accounts payable. So if I tried to delete that account, I'm going to immediately hit delete. I'm going to immediately get a notice that basically tells me that I'm not able to delete this account because it has activity. Now, if I want to make the account inactive, which we're going to show you how to do that, which you can do it straight from here to make the account inactive. We're not going to make accounts payable inactive, but you can make the account inactive. And what that will do, that's different from delete. It will keep all the prior transactions so I can always go back and look at it, but it will simply take it off of the drop-down list for the bookkeeper that may be coding your invoices and things like that. That account will no longer be available to the bookkeeper or the person that's doing the data entry, but we can always go back and look at the activity on that account from an audit trail standpoint. Get out of there. You can also just highlight any one of these and just right-click and make the account inactive. So if you right-click and you say you don't want to use this account anymore, you'll see that you have the ability to make the account inactive, so you can click inactive. So if you have a chart of accounts that's got way too many things, but you got activity, you can go through and clean it up. And then if you click on accounts with the little drill down, you can always show the inactive accounts by clicking inactive, and you can see those, and you can always bring that account back online if you want. Okay, and then the last function here is, say I want to edit an account. I want to change the name. It's just not clear. It's confusing. I can highlight an account. I can right-click it, and I can edit the account. Maybe I got it classified to the wrong thing. Maybe I had it, the account, and I had my chart of accounts, and I classified something as an asset that should have been a liability. I can change it here. I can change the name to make it clearer. So this is where you would go in to update that. I want to add a description because, I have a new person. Now I want them to understand, what am I going to be using this for? What type of expenditure should go into this account? I can use that description field to identify, particularly that's good for folks that are new and may not have an accounting background, just to help them, guide them through how things should be posted. So you can get out of there. So that's really, going to take us through the chart of accounts. And then we're going to go through a couple other lists that I think is important. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on the list. And we're going to we can look at item lists. I just want to take a minute to explain that. So this is, can be used for your invoicing. So if you have, let's just look at the flatbed, if that's something that you want, or hauling services, this will go in and add it. I want to just show the purpose of this. So what this does is it gives you the ability to track your sales. And if she opens this up, click on open. I can also track the cost side of this. So I can say that I want the cost side of this to go to my labor. I can also select, you don't have labor here, just do whatever. Okay, I can have my costs related to flatbed services be tracked on the cost side, but then I can also track it on the income side for my invoicing. So one side of the coin is to track the expenses, and one side of the coin is to track the sales or the income. Can you close out of that? Another thing that I can do is, let's just say for flatbed, I have a flat price. And if I wanted to so this is my price across the board 95% of the time, I can put in, let's just say that is $1,000. I don't know what it would be, but we just put $1,000. You'll notice that that's going to come in on the invoice when I go through the invoicing, so we'll leave it there. And you do have the ability to override it, but it just helps with the ability to, maybe automate your invoicing if you have flat pricing for certain services. Get out. We won't be going over tax codes because this industry wouldn't have taxes. And here, that was just saying that because she went in and made some changes, that notice was saying, like, do you want me to affect all the transactions from the inception, or do you want me to just move forward with what I'm doing now? Because we just made an edit to an existing item that has activity. So that's really it for the for items. If you want to set up items, it works very similar to the AR module. I mean, you can right-click anywhere in here, just right-click, and you can actually add new items, edit items, duplicate items, so that you don't have to worry about the configuration here. Or you can go down to the bottom, at the bottom of and you can get the same information here as well. So if you were setting up a new item, you just would click, new item here. So let's just click new items real quick. And then this is service, so you would just choose service. And then you can put in the information here, and then you can just say, okay. So I've already went through, one, but I just want to show you how to add an item. You can cancel. So that's it for the list. Let's look and see if there's any other lists here. Can you drill down, click on list, so I can see if there's any other list that I think is important to set up here. Nope, I think we're good there. So the next item I just want to point out is the home screen that's on right now. So a lot of the functions, you can use different functions to get you to the same place. So we were utilizing up at the top, you see the file, the list and things like that. But QuickBooks has a visual here too for those functions that are mostly used to help you see the workflow stream and the logistics of how things could be. Because a lot of times this is developed for, you know, anyone to use, non-accountants, non-bookkeepers. So they try to make it as user-friendly and menu-driven as possible. So the first lane here is for your vendors, and those are the individuals that, you know, you owe money to. And, you know, typically you would go in and enter the bill. You can enter the bill straight from here, although we're going to be going over the entire vendor center. And then you can pay the bill here as well. The lane in the middle is your customer. If you decided to create sales orders ahead of time, in your industry, a lot of times sales orders are not created. You just go straight to creating your invoice for your customer. You can get to that function from here, although we're going to be using the customer center because there's other things I want to show you. You can receive your payments from here. You can generate your statements straight from here, issue refunds. We are not going to be going over the last lane here that's the employee lane that's listed at the bottom here. We, again, are having a webinar next week to specifically talk about payroll and to go through training on payroll. So I do encourage you to attend that if you're interested in learning the features and functions of payroll through QuickBooks. And then on the right side of things, you can get to your chart of accounts from here. You notice we went through it from list, but you can get through your items from here, which will take you through the same section. You can order checks from here. You can even upgrade your QuickBooks from here. And then the last lane on the right-hand side is the banking lane, where you can actually record your deposits. You can write checks straight out instead of going through the AP module. You can view your check register. You can print checks there, and you can reconcile from here. So I'd like to point this out, especially if you're new to QuickBooks and you're a newer, you're not an accountant. This is a nice diagram, a visual to show you just the progression of how transactions should be entered into your system. Okay, with that, we're going to go straight to the customer real quick. And we're going to start with the customer center because the customer center is, you know, the main portal for your customer information. So so typically when you go to customer center, not only can you see all the customers that you have set up, but what you can also see if you highlight a particular customer, you can see the number of invoices off to the right, the date of those invoices. If I was looking for transactions in older years, I can change those transactions. If I was looking, can you drill down to show all transactions? Just drill down so I can show the functions. I can look at, I can look at if I wanted to see the payments received, I can query, you know, payments received. So it just gives you the ability to get everything on your customers from one location. So that's typically why we train out of the different module centers opposed to using the home screen. But you can do it how you like. You can also see filter by. If you click down on the filter by, the next section. Well, that's all, that's fine. And then go to the fiscal year. You can change if you want to just look at transactions for today, if you want to look at transactions within the system from the history of the client, or if you wanted to look at it monthly, you can query things there as well. So we're going to go into how to set up a customer first. So we're going to just right-click here, or you can go up to the top where you can just say new customers, a couple different ways to get to it. Okay, so we're going to set up a customer. We're just going to make it a test customer. We're going to just type test in here. Keep in mind at the top, that test customer, because a lot of folks will ask, well, what's the difference between the customer name there up at the top and the customer name where Olga's typing now. The one at the top is really for data entry, and when I drill down to select an invoice or a customer to bill, that name is what I'm looking at, whereas the company name, the second company name will be what is reflected on the invoice. So a lot of times, no, I should say a lot of times, most of the time, these customer names are going to be the same. Okay, but sometimes you may want to abbreviate, or you may want to use numbers, your customer code numbers, to help with data entry. But for the sake of this webinar, you know, the names are going to be the same. You would put in your contact information, any type of information, phone numbers, work numbers. Important to put everything in that you possibly can, because if you ever get into a situation where you need to do some collection calls and things like that, it's helpful to have that information in here. If you put the main email and CC email, that gives you the ability to actually email the invoices over directly to your customer. So it is important to have that. The ship to is really not applicable to you. Typically, you know, where you bill the customer is where you're billing. You're not shipping products, so we don't need to worry about ship to. Okay, I'm just say payment settings. Payment settings, if you had a particular customer that wanted you to reference a purchase order or a specific account number or reference number that they've set up for your company, so it's easy for them to identify you when you send over your invoicing. This information would print on your invoicing. You can put it here. Payment terms is how your aging, your accounts receivable aging is going to print out. So, you know, if I select net 30 here, depending on what, you know, is negotiated, then once that 31 day happens from the date of the invoice, then it will print on my aging that's past due. If I selected net 15, then it will print on my aging on the 16th day as past due. So this is where you can control the terms that have been negotiated with your customer. You can get out of there. Okay, you go back to payment setting. I was just saying get out of that one. Yeah, thank you. You know, if you're going to be emailing your customer, you can set it up where it'll automatically default, so we can trigger once the invoice is created to email. I mean, you have other features there if you want to drill down on that feature for the preferred delivery method. Not payment method, delivery method, the one above it. You can also just say, I don't want the email function turned on and I'm just going to be mailing, and that's fine. Or you can say none and have the ability to toggle between email versus mail. Get out of there. The preferred method, if you drill down on that, you can leave this blank, but if you, when you're posting payment, it does ask if it's going to be paid by a check or if it's going to be paid by what type of payment it is. And if you got a customer that always 100% always paid by American Express, for example, so that the bookkeeper doesn't have to keep changing it to American Express, that'll come over in the payment module when you're accepting payments. So that's all that's for. A lot of people just leave that blank and then they just add it on the fly. It's up to you. If you have a credit card that's always being utilized and your customer uses that to pay, you can fill that information here. If you're accepting online payments or ACH payments, you have to turn this on. And what'll happen is now you'll have the ability to not only send an invoice to the customer, but you can actually send a payment link where they can make the payments. And then the credit limits and you know, if you want to set limits up with your customers, you could. And you can also set up price levels where if you have different levels, like this is a client that, you know, I'm going to give this type of pricing level to versus another type of pricing level because they're a high volume client or something like that. So it's not really applicable in trucking. Sales tax setting, we're not going to look at that because there's no taxes here for this trucking. Additional information is where you can, if you want to segregate the different types of clients, if you wanted to segregate commercial clients, or you want to segregate governmental clients. You can use these fields to segregate these type of clients, and then based on that, you can run reports based on these defined fields. And click out. Go back to additional. One more thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the reps. If you have sales folks and you want to track those salespeople, whether they're consultants or employees, you can tag them to the particular client so that when you're running sales reports or if you're paying commission, you can sort things by salespeople. And then we're not going to really go to job. We're not doing job costing here, but that is available if you wanted to segregate and set up various jobs. So we can cancel out of there. And then you'll see the test customer is now created. So this is how you're able to create a test customer. So we can go right into, you can do creating an invoice straight from here, or you can go up to the top. So whichever one, if you want to use the new transaction key, because you can manage everything for your customer right here. So go to new transactions. Next to that, over. There you go. So right here, I can create the invoice and do everything. I don't have to toggle out of this at all if I chose to use this work from this module. So let's just create an invoice. So basically what this is going to do is you're able to bring up, you know, a customer. So you can just bring up a customer and just another one. Let's just see if we got more data in there. Okay. So look at this. So what this is telling us is that we have the ability in QuickBooks that if we are doing time and material type billing or any type of cost plus billing in our system, what we can tell the system is that I'm creating this invoice. According to this, I have cost. Do I want to use that cost to help me create this invoice? I can say no, I can cancel out of this and just create the invoice from scratch. Or I can say okay, and let's just see what kind of cost comes in. So let's just say okay. And you'll see there's 2 mileage items here, and I can say, yes, I want to bring these into the invoice because I want to charge my client back for mileage. Now, I don't have a rate, but I may have agreed upon rate, or maybe it's the IRS rate. So just click OK. And then I can put the IRS rate or whatever. If I want to just put, you know, you can put a description, whatever, you know, that the project name, whatever makes sense to you. You can put a description in there. But then let's just say for the mileage, I want to charge 50 cents, 0.50 cents. Then it'll automatically calculate that for me so that I don't have to, you know, do it manually if I'm tracking all my mileage in the system. Then what is also saying, hey, for a waste haul, if that's the rate, the 50 cents, do you want me to update this so that next time I use this line, I don't have to remember that it was 50 cents. So if you just say okay there, and then just create another line for me. And let's just choose the waste hauling, the waste, just type in waste. Yep. And then just let's put 1,000 as the quantity. And now click on to the waste. You got to click out. Okay, I'm kind of, it should have updated. So put the 0.50 in there again. Okay. You got 2 decimals in there. And then just hit click out. Usually that feature is updated. I'm not sure why it didn't come over, but typically the way it should work is if you put 0.50 in and you update the profile, then it should automatically come up for you. But I think you got the gist of it. what I wanted to show was that you have the ability to bring in costs into an invoice in efforts to help you, pull together your invoice so you don't have to go back manually and look at the mileage and things like that if you have an agreement where you're charging your customer mileage. So you can just say save and close. And because we have this turned on for emailing, if that tells me that we don't have an email address in the system, but we've turned on the emailing function. So if you have a standard person, when we went to the customer setup, we could have put that email in there and it would have automatically came over to email, or you can add the email here. But because we have turned on the email feature to email this customer invoicing, it's prompting us to add the information so the invoice can be emailed. Okay. Next, we're going to go over vendors, setting up vendors. So you can just say save and close here. Can you save and close that?
Yeah, it's thinking.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, give me 1 second. It's thinking.
Did you try to just click on save and close right there? Yeah, there you go. All righty. Okay, and then under the vendor center, you're going to see that it looks very similar to the customer center, with the exception that we're talking about vendors, folks that we own. So, but you'll notice the setup is the same. If I click on that vendor 1, 2, 3, I'm able to see, any activity off to the right. It works pretty much the same, guys. So I can, in order to add a vendor, I can either right click, in the grid here to add a vendor, add a new vendor, or I can simply take the icon that's right above the word vendor and choose that. It's just so many different ways to get to adding a new vendor. If I have a setup system, and I'm just launching a system from another system, I can actually add all my vendors at the same time by using the add multiple vendor section. So can we do that? That'd be a nice one to show. And what happened here is I can actually add all my vendors so I can at least get their general information in. Can you scroll all the way over? So you can see just general information and address. So that'll put the vendor in, but I still would have to go in to configure payment terms and things like that. But this is really good where if I'm trying to import, from a new system and I have 40 vendors, I can quickly add them this way and then go in to modify payment terms. So if you can get out of there real quick, close out. We're going to do it single so we can look at all the features. So again, we're going to go new vendor. We're going to add a new vendor. We're going to go through the different sections. So basically, again, same preference. The top is related to data entry and how that would appear on the Dropbox, whereas the actual name is how it would print on the check. I would put the information in here, email address, all of that type of information. Payment settings. Again, if, I'm paying a utility bill, it's the same account number. I want the account number to reference on the check stub, so it's easy for the person that's receiving the payment to pull up my account. I can reference my account there. Payment terms, again, that's what's been negotiated with your vendors, if they're offering any type of discount. If you pay within 10 days or pay within 30 days, you can, put those terms in there. If it's, just basically a 30-day agreement, you can put whatever's on there. Again, just like the accounts receivable customer side, this dictates how your accounts aging report will print and how it will reflect as being past due or current. You can get out of there. If you want, if you got been assigned a certain credit limit, you can put it here. So same type of information, but it's on the vendor side. So tax setting. This is important because we'll get a lot of clients that want to use QuickBooks to print their 1099s, but they have not turned this feature on. So if this feature is not turned on, you can't utilize this system to issue your 1099s. So if you wanted to issue a vendor 1099, and typically the IRS rules is anybody that gets paid more than $600, you would issue a 1099 to if they're not a corporation. A lot of folks, just for simplicity, will just issue 1099s to anyone, regardless of the entity structure of, they would issue a 1099 for those that got paid, $600 or more. But you have to have the tax ID number, so you would put the tax ID number in here. Folks can put one in there. Can you put, okay, there we go. And then once you've got a applicable tax ID number in here, click out. This has the format. Thought I gave you a tax ID number last time we used. I can give you another one if you, yeah. What it's basically telling her is that she doesn't have the proper format for a tax ID. But once you put the proper format in, you can click eligible. That box will open up for vendor eligibility, and then you want to have that checked. So we don't have to go through that, but you would put the tax ID number. And just so you know, what you should be doing for best practices, the IRS form is a W-9 form. And you should be sending this to your vendors anyway, particularly those that you want to issue a 1099 on, so they can fill that information out and tell you their company structure, and they would give you their proper tax ID number. And once you get that information, you put it here, and then you just toggle on the 1099. Account setting. So this is the ease coding for your invoicing to help make sure things get posted properly. A lot of times your accountant can help you with this. If you have a particular vendor and you know that it's for office supplies and that's all they sell to you, then you can click on office supplies so that when I'm bringing that vendor or paying that, putting that vendor's invoice into my system, it'll automatically code it here. I can always override it. The reason why I have multiple options is because sometimes you can have a vendor that serves more than just one thing. So you can have a vendor that supplies services to you, or they give you, let's just say, material. So you can actually put up to 3 different codes here. And what'll happen is when they're entering that invoice, if you want to put just another one in here, just grab one. It'll give me an option when I'm entering of which one, I would like to use. So we'll show you that feature. So you can just say, okay, and then go to additional, yep. And then here, again, just like the customer field, maybe I want to segregate my vendors based on the type of vendor they are. Maybe I want to segregate my consultants from my service providers. Maybe I want to segregate my household bills, my routine bills separately. You can use this how you want, but just keep in mind that when I set this up, this does give me the ability to run reports that way. So we can just say, okay. So just like on the AR side, we got to show you how to create an invoice. So if you go to click on vendor, transact or new transactions, either way, and you're going to enter a bill. And you would just put in the information. If there's an invoice number here, we want to put the invoice number in. and then you have the amount. Let's just say it's $100. And then what's nice about this note is the accounts of your terms. If she had terms here, it would have automatically defaulted if we would have put it in the master file, but maybe this is net 15. We can put that in there. If there's a special memo that we want to put in there to reference on the check stub, we can do that. But notice the GL accounts that came in. So what we've done is we said that for this vendor, these are the categories that we typically utilize them for. I can add other categories. Maybe $50 of this was related to, office supplies, and then $50 was related to something else. So when we set it up in the parameters, now those GLs came in, opposed to, if you click on the third line there, opposed to me clicking there, drilling down, click on the list, the arrow, to open up the list, and me selecting from all of these accounts. By having those pre-codes in there when it's applicable. Sometimes you can't do that. It helps cut down, errors and you happen to manually select something, but you can do that. Okay. So we can save and close there, just save and close. And then the nice thing I just want to show is when you go to reporting here, so you can just go up to reports. And go to vendors. You see that aging AP summary? You can click on the AP summary, that accounts payable, and I know I gave the definition, but you'll get a nice, neat report of who owes you and how long they have owed me. I can drill down and see the actual invoicing. So once you get this set up, now you can run this accounts payable report to see who actually, owes you and for how long. If I wanted to drill down to see if that consists of more than one invoice, I can drill down by clicking right there. And I can see, what the invoice is, and I can drill down a second time and go to the original entry of the invoice. You can get out of there. You can do the same thing for the accounts receivable side of things. So if you go to reports again, under customers, and go to accounts receivable aging. So now you got the aging, by customer, and you can see who owes you and for how long. Since we just put these items in the system, we coded them at 30 days, and nothing is really considered past due, so it's current. So it works the same, the same way. We can get out of there. Okay. Are there any questions? I know I've been rambling on before we get into some of the specific reports. Just want to know if there's any questions. Okay. If not, let's go to the report section.
It says
okay,
we have it says my Chase credit card changed. How do I update the bank account?
I'm sorry?
It says, so I'm assuming under the chart of accounts. So she had a Chase credit card change. How does she update the bank account?
So a Chase credit card would be considered a bank account. A Chase credit card would be considered a credit card. And can you show that function? Let's go to the chart of accounts. And remember how we were showing you right click, or you can just go down to that drill down to add a new account, and you go to new account. And you see where you have credit card. The reason why you want to select it as a credit card, okay, it's not a bank account because a bank account is an asset. A credit card is a liability, so that means that you owe that money. But you want to check credit card because the system then allows you to actually perform a reconciliation. So all you would do is create the credit card, click credit card, and then hit continue. And then you would put in Chase credit card here. If you was using the system to help manage your tax return, you can put the last, just in case you got multiple credit cards for the Chase, you can put the number so it's easier to find. It's automatically going to report it on your other current assets on the tax return, and then you would just save and close. And here, right here, is where if you, just like the bank account, a credit card statement, you are able to actually feed into Chase Bank to get your credit card transactions. The only thing is when you feed it into to your system, you just need to make sure that it's bringing it in and taking it to the right categories. But just like a bank statement, with a credit card statement, you can bring those transactions in directly from your bank account or your credit card account by linking to that bank. We're going to say no here. We're not trying to turn on live feeds. But notice now the credit card is listed here. It is listed in the liability section. And if you go up, your bank account is listed in your asset section. So that's how you would set up and add your new credit card. And if you need further help, call our office. We can help you set that up very easily. Are there any other questions?
No more questions, Michelle. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Oh, she said thank you. Never mind. All good.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to go over, I know we, for time's sake, we're going to go over just some important reports. So, you know, we have a couple industry-specific reports. So if you go down to industry, we already kind of went over the AP. You can get various reports here as it relates to, we have to kind of bring them in, but you can get trucking reports. Do you at least have where we can track drivers? Is that turned on under list? Because I didn't see that turned on. If you go to list.
The drivers are put in as sales rep. So we'd have to track them like a sales rep.
Where's that at though? I don't see it.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. So under the trucking, what you could do is you can set up all of your drivers if you want as a sales rep. This is just kind of how QuickBooks manipulate to help you service the trucking industry, and you can actually set up your drivers separately so that you can kind of see what each driver from a sales perspective is yielding you, and you can kind of compare that to what you're actually paying the driver just to do various analysis. So I just wanted to just show how you're able to put your your vehicles, or I should say your drivers in. What about for tracking vehicle mileage and reporting? Is that feature turned on? Okay, there we go. So under reports specific, you have where you can track vehicle summary. So if you can click on your vehicle summary, just so we can just see the entire report. You can actually see the vehicles, the mileage, if you're tracking it by vehicle, the mileage that, was used on that vehicle from a certain period of time. So you have the ability to track mileage here as well. Can you go back to the reports? And just under the project time and mileage. You can also track vehicle detail on the vehicles if you want to click on vehicles detail. And what you can see here is you actually get a little bit more detail on the trip and the trip ended. But if you can click on one of those, I just want to show them how they input it. So here, what you can do is you can record trips, you know, to the vehicle by putting in your trip date, the end date. You can put what the odometer was showing at the beginning and what it showed at the end. You can actually categorize that, whether it's waste haul or whatever type of item it is. You can take it to the different the different customers. But if you want to use this to create your invoice, you see that billable versus non-billable. You want to make sure that's billable, that's checked, so that when I create the invoice, it'll bring that mileage in. So those are some of the specific reports that's related to trucking that we just kind of wanted to highlight. If you are wanting your QuickBooks to actually be looked at to turn on some of these features, or if you're a new startup company and you're looking for someone to set up your system, that is covered under the IDOT supportive services. And you can just give us a call and we'll be more than happy to, you know, assist you. I'm going to pause to see if there's any other questions. And if there's none, I'm going to thank you guys.
There's no questions, Michelle.
Okay, so we thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Olga. Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to go over some other some final. Let me get to that. Like I said, the PowerPoint slides will be available to you after today's meeting, and okay. So we're going to go over the available resources. So the Building Blocks of Success workshop series will continue through April 2024. You can register via Eventbrite. The link is there. And then the QR code is here. Again, we are presenting our QuickBooks Payroll Insurance Union setup on April 2nd, which is Tuesday. Here is the April workshop flyer. All of the April workshops are on here. So like I said, this will be provided to you. The link is below. And then if you want to submit any questions before the workshop, you can click on the link or click the QR code. The questionnaire is to your right, very simple, very easy to submit. The IDOT is on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel. It's on youtube.com/@Illinois. You're going to go to the playlist, click on playlist. Once you get to playlist, you're going to get on the consultant YouTube playlist. And here you'll find any past workshops we've done, and today's workshop will also be on there. So if you need to review any past or current, you know, and today's workshop, you can go ahead and do so. It's on this YouTube channel. And then you can scan the QR code or click the link in the chat to provide feedback about the session. And as a reminder, we will be sending up a following email that includes the recording, presentation, links to resources, upcoming workshops and events, and then contact information. For additional information, you can contact Supportive Services or Bureau of Small Business Enterprises, Office of Business and Workforce Diversity. The number and email is below. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for attending today's workshop. And if you have any additional questions in regards to QuickBooks or setting up your company in QuickBooks, please feel free to reach out to us. My information is in the chat and also in the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. All right. You guys enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.